Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. Today on the show, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Next week, Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out, which is Marvel Studios' 20th film. Isn't that crazy? There's been 20 Marvel films as of next week. I'm really looking forward to it because it does look like it's one of those few sequels that looks like it'll surpass the original. And so a friend of mine mentioned, hey, I've seen these lists online, of the Marvel movies from worst to greatest, or, their favorite, top 10 favorites or whatever. So I'm going to be doing something that I don't think I've ever really done before, and I'm going to list all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films from worst to best, 19 of them up until this point. Sure. There's going to be no ties or anything like that. It's going to be 19 to 1, and they are in order. Again, this is my opinion, so if you disagree, that's okay. We can't all agree on things, but again, this is just my opinion of the 19 films thus far. So I'm also not going to be going into like the non-MCU films. So I'm not going to be talking about like Amazing Spider-Man. I'm not going to be talking about like the really, really old Captain America. I'm not going to be talking about those. They're only MCU films, Marvel Cinematic Universe films. So we're not going to be talking about like Spider-Man 2 and 3. Those films are outside that universe. Only the MCU films by Marvel Studios / Disney, I guess. So here we go. Number 19 is Thor: The Dark World. This movie is atrocious. I don't know what they were thinking when they filmed this one. I think they really wanted to make Thor a darker character for some reason. Even to put dark in the title, they really wanted to shift the tone of Thor, even more so than the first one. Because the first one wasn't, it had some humor, but they really want to make it this really serious film, and it really doesn't work at all. The tone is all over the place. The plot is instantly forgettable. And honestly, almost everything that happens in it it's basically undone by the next movie in the Thor series. So really not a great film. I don't think they knew what to do with Thor in this, and I think they just needed an excuse to kind of work in one of the Infinity Stones, which in this film is known as the Ether, so it's not really a stone. It's a very strange movie. I don't like it. You can see that the chemistry between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth is just basically non-existent, and it was even more non-existent in the second one than it was in the first one. And it's a really badly done movie. The direction is horrible. The action sequences are very lackluster. It's a very, very forgettable, boring film, and I hate this movie. Like, it's truly the only Marvel movie that I hate. It's really lousy, and I couldn't recommend it to anybody. And honestly, it's one of the few Marvel movies in the MCU that you can completely skip and you would not miss anything. It's that bad. Number 18 is Thor, the first Thor film. Now, this is not a good movie as well. I did not enjoy it at all. I have some friends that really like this movie, and I can understand why they like it. It does a lot of world building with Thor. It really does a good job of explaining his world and his characters. That I do appreciate. However, it is a woefully boring film. I can't stand how slow and boring this film is. Kenneth Branagh is the director of this film, and he is a stupendous director. He is a great actor. He is classically trained. I mean, this guy is a master of all things filmmaking. However, he is totally the wrong choice to direct this film. He directs it as if it's like a Shakespearean drama, and which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's what he's done in the past, and he's very good at it. However, his direction in this movie just does not work. It's very stilted. It's not dynamic at all. It's a good-looking movie, I will say that. It is very, very well shot in terms of composition and everything, but I really don't like this movie, and it also doesn't help that the two leads have no chemistry whatsoever. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, like I said in the last one, in Thor: The Dark World, their chemistry is non-existent. They're not good together. And the fact that they're supposed to be the two leads and she's supposed to be the love interest, it doesn't work for me, and the whole movie really doesn't work for me, except for the fact that Kenneth Branagh is a very good director. It's just he doesn't do a good job at this film, which is too bad. Number 17 is Ant-Man. Ant-Man is one of the more recent movies on this list, and it's pretty low on the list because I just didn't think it was anything exceptional. It really felt like a retread of the first Iron Man, which is a very good movie, but it felt like very much like another run-of-the-mill origin story with really nothing too special except for the special effects. I think the special effects in it were great. Much like Thor: The Dark World, I thought the direction in this was really non-existent. I didn't see anything in the film that I thought was very mind-blowing or anything that was of note. Again, the movie doesn't look bad, but it does seem like a very expensive TV movie at times, and that's not a good thing. The number one best part about this movie is the two leads, I should say. Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Paul Rudd is so good because he's such a fish out of water. He's really the best part of the movie, and you can still tell he's getting his legs in this film. Like, he does comedy really well, but you can tell he's not used to doing action just yet. The next film that he's featured in, he does a much better job in. But Ant-Man as a lead character is not the greatest thing in the world. I think he works better as a side character. And of course, Michael Douglas in this film he's just great. I mean, he's great in everything, but his deadpan delivery in a lot of this movie is just wonderful. And number 16 is Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3, obviously, is the third film in the Iron Man series. But this movie was a really big disappointment, to me at least. I had really high hopes for this film, and it just failed on a lot of ways. Iron Man 3 was directed by Shane Black, who is one of my favorite writers of all time. He's written stuff like Lethal Weapon, Last Boy Scout. He's done some uncredited rewrites for certain movies. One of my favorite action movies of all time, The Long Kiss Goodnight. And he also did a movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, also with Robert Downey Jr., which is an awesome film. He just did not do that great of a job with this Iron Man movie. The main issue with the film is that it really didn't feel like an Iron Man film. It felt like an action movie that had Iron Man in it, if that makes any sense. The physics of the suits and stuff in this movie doesn't really make much sense. The first two movies, he's like an indestructible just powerhouse. In this, he takes one hit and the suits fall apart. And that was a big thing in the movie that, the movie got a lot of crap for, and rightfully so. The plot to the movie is kind of a mess as well. I really didn't like it. There's certain parts of it that I enjoy. I think the dialogue in the movie is A1, honestly. The plot, without getting into spoilers, is very disappointing because it sets up the story with the Mandarin, who is one of Marvel's like nefarious bad guys, like one of the top worst bad guys in all of Marvel Comics. And what they do to his character in this film is disappointing. And again, I'm not going to ruin it for you. The movie's been out for a few years now, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, and it's just not that great. The acting in it is superb. The writing is superb, except for that extremely disappointing plot twist. But overall, the movie is good, but it isn't great, and because of that, it's pretty low on my list. Next up at number 15 is Avengers Age of Ultron. This was the second Avengers film, and it had a lot to live up to. That first Avengers film was a big event. I remember seeing it the day it came out. I also saw Age of Ultron the day it came out. And my experience with that film was good to medium, I'd say. It's a really well-made film, but it suffers from kind of a strange plot that goes all over the place. It takes a weird detour halfway through. The acting in it is, again, pretty good, and it also seems to suffer from some editing woes. And you can tell that there's some stuff missing, or they had to change some stuff last minute, because the story is really all over the place. But yet again, everybody that's in the film does the best that they can do with the material that they were given. Joss Whedon directs it and writes it again, and he does a very good job directing. I don't have any qualms about the directing in this film. The plot, again, not the greatest thing in the world, but it is an entertaining film. It is an Avengers movie, so you get all the characters together. There's just some things about it that I do not like in terms of plot progression and in terms of pacing and stuff. It does have some issues in that department. I like it, but I think there are better Marvel films that have come out before and since. Number 14 on my list is The Incredible Hulk. Now, this is going to upset some people that this is higher than Age of Ultron, but I kind of like this movie. This is one of those movies that came out, and I really liked it when it came out, and people just didn't for some reason. Critics didn't like it. I think it's one of the best Hulk movies, honestly. It's way better than Ang Lee's Hulk movie. That movie is a mess. This movie here at least features the Hulk in a way that makes sense. You do not have to wait, half the movie to see the Hulk come out. And the Hulk looks really good in this. The CGI is not that bad. Near the end of the film, it kind of suffers a little because you get into a big battle near the end. But I like the way the Hulk was handled in this movie. I liked the story of it was actually pretty interesting. It really did feel like a very long, more modern episode of the old Incredible Hulk TV series from like the 70s and 80s. But it is kind of a weird movie in the franchise. I like it. I am glad that Mark Ruffalo took over the part, however. I gotta say, the character I think is well played by Ed Norton in this film, but he just, for some reason, I have a hard time buying him as Bruce Banner. I don't know why. He's really one of the few actors in the film that I think did not do that great of a job, and he's the lead. He does the best that he can. Don't get me wrong. Edward Norton is a wonderful actor, but something was off about him as Bruce Banner. He does the best that he can do, but again, I'm glad that the part later changed to Mark Ruffalo, and I think Ruffalo does a better job of kind of handling both parts of his character. The next movie on my list is number 13. We're going to Iron Man 2 now. Iron Man 2, obviously the second Iron Man film, is a pretty good follow-up to the original. It really does show Tony Stark has changed in certain ways. Him revealing to the world that he is Iron Man at the end of the first film was a big twist, and it kind of shows how he's dealt with it. The plot of this one, yet again, is a problem. The bad guys in this are somewhat interesting, but they're not really groundbreaking to the point where, like, wow, I've never seen that before. Just a very, very, very run-of-the-mill kind of story, but it was our first introduction to Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson as that character, and it's worth watching the movie just for her alone. She does a very good job as a smaller supporting character, but this is a fun movie to watch. I've rewatched it quite a few times, and very recently they revealed that Peter Parker is the little kid that Iron Man saves at the beginning of it, and or I should say near the end of it. And that is really cool. That is a really cool little thing to know. Number 12 on my list is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, this was the follow-up to the original Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I think it's a really well-made movie. I think the opening of it is one of the best openings I've ever seen in a film. It is outstanding. That little music intro with the ELO song, with little baby Groot dancing around. I think that's just a lot of fun. This movie is a lot of fun. And Kurt Russell as Ego in this is just, he's awesome as that part. And he really gets to do stuff that he doesn't get a chance to do quite often. And the movie is a lot of fun. It is, It is a little long. I'd have to say the movie does run a little long at times, but all the actors in the movie do a fabulous job. The plot of it is acceptable, but it is wildly different than the first film. I mean, it is really, really different than the first film, and that rubs some people the wrong way. I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun, and honestly, I think it's, one of the more exciting and more funny, I should say, Marvel films as of late. Number 11 is Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange is a movie that came out around the same year as, I think, Suicide Squad. I think it came out the same year as that. And unlike Suicide Squad, Doctor Strange is a lot of fun to watch. Doctor Strange is one of those movies that I had little to no expectations for this film, and it blew me away in a lot of ways. The story is very interesting because it's more of an internal character struggle type story than it is anything else. Stephen Strange is a very, very interesting character. He's very obnoxious, much like Tony Stark, and I think those two characters, once they got together in Avengers Infinity War, that was made to happen. They are made for each other, and I think that the introduction you get to his character in this film is amazing. Benedict Cumberbatch is a great actor, and he really brings it all to the part of Doctor Strange in this. And also, this movie does a really good job of making the world of Doctor Strange, which is a very kind of psychedelic, trippy kind of world, makes it totally believable. Number 10 is Black Panther. Now we're getting into the top 10 list here, and Black Panther is one of the newer films on here, and honestly, I really like this movie. This is just a very well-made movie. Michael B. Jordan is a force to be reckoned with in this as the antagonist, Killmonger. He is so good in this movie, and he's one of the few Marvel bad guys that is a true match to the hero in this. Everybody in this film is at the top of their game. The direction in this, Ryan Coogler's direction, is just outstanding. The action sequences throughout are very well done. I think it could have actually used a little more action, ironically enough. The only thing I have to fault the movie for is the CGI at the end goes full Star Wars Episode 1 for some reason. I don't know why that happened, but you can see that they cheaped out on special effects in a few scenes. And why they did that, I'll never understand. I can tell you this much, this movie made more money than God, so Black Panther 2 better not have no lousy CGI here and there. I doubt that's going to happen. Number 9 on my list now is Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, this is the first Captain America film. A lot of people don't like this movie. I love this movie. I think this movie is so well done. It's one of those rare, perfect period piece films that I adore this movie. Joe Johnston is the director of this, who also did like Jurassic Park 3, and he did Gremlins 1 and 2. And this guy is a veteran director, and he knows how to direct an exciting film, and I really like this movie. This is one of the best origin stories of any comic book hero ever. The movie is all in the 40s. It takes place almost completely in the 40s, I should say. And I love the fact that they were able to make a World War II film into a comic book movie. And I don't think a lot of people were expecting that when this movie came out. But it is perfectly done. All the actors in it are outstanding. Chris Evans as Captain America, who I'm wearing the shirt for today, but he is just outstanding in this. And you really get a sense of character growth and progression in this film. And I think without this movie, I think the Captain America that we know now would not be as appealing without this film. It's worth a rewatch, and if you didn't like it the first time around, give it a second chance and watch it with a new pair of eyes, because I'll tell you, it is one of those movies that's grown on me as the years go by. When I first saw it, I really liked it, but now I actually appreciate it more than I did when it came out years ago. Number 8 on my list is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this is the first film in the series, and I really like this movie. This is just another really well-made film. It's a blast to watch. The music in this movie is some of the best use of licensed music I've ever seen. Right from the opening, it grabs you, it tugs on your heartstrings, and you are in for the rest of the film. It's masterfully written, it's wonderfully acted, it's shot to perfection, and the action sequences in it are great. There's a lot of heart in this film, and it shows all throughout, and you can really tell that everybody involved knew they were making something special. It's a blast to watch, it's a blast to rewatch, and it's one of my favorite films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Number 7 on my list is The Avengers. Now, this is the first Avengers film, and again, this was a big deal when it came out, and still kind of is. Now, the weak part about this film is the plot. The plot is kind of all over the place. Loki, bringing this alien force to Earth so he can rule it. Again, kind of a wild plot. But it does the job, and it does a great job of making a ridiculous idea of bringing all these superheroes together on film, and it does a really good job of making it into a reality. I love the acting in this film. You can tell that these guys really wanted to do their best in this. Joss Whedon, again, scripting and directing the film, and he is another guy that you can tell really wanted to make this movie work. And he does. He really does. He really ups the ante in a lot of ways from the previous Marvel films that came before it. And you can tell that he really, really, really wanted to make this movie into something special. And he did, because the Marvel Universe not only went on, but it spawned more films that even surpassed this one. One of which is number 6. Number 6 is Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor Ragnarok is one of the more recent films in the series, and God, man, this movie is so much fun to watch. This is the only Thor film in the series that I truly love. This movie is so well done. It is a riot of a film, and I don't like it because it's funny. I like it because it actually makes you give a shit about Thor. Thor, up until this point, was pretty much a one-dimensional character. The only times when I really liked Thor, when he was in Avengers or Avengers Age of Ultron, that was really the only time when I liked Thor. And other than that, I kind of thought he was kind of a jerk. But in between Avengers Age of Ultron and this, he kind of mellowed out, which I think was a good choice. And I think they heard feedback from the fans saying, hey, listen, Thor isn't working the way you guys are doing it. He's too dark. Thor is meant to be more of a fun character sometimes, and they really took that feedback to heart and made a damn good movie here. Everything about it is a blast. That's shot awesomely. The colors in this movie, it is so vibrant. It is one of the best looking movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's awesome looking. The acting in this, Chris Hemsworth, I don't know what the hell happened to him between the Avengers Age of Ultron and this, but holy shit, man. He's like a different guy in this movie. His character is so good. You actually care about Thor in this movie. He's amazing. He's funny. His timing is perfect all throughout. I mean, he's just great. And you can also buy him as the God of Thunder in this. Also, it has Jeff Goldblum, and anything with Jeff Goldblum is worth watching, in my opinion. It doesn't matter what the movie is. If he's in it, he just ups the movie more, in my opinion. So there's that. Number 5 is Spiderman Homecoming. Spider-Man is one of those characters that everybody is familiar with. And the fact that they were able to not only reintroduce him in this film, but also really make you care about his situation and how he's dealing with these powers that are still somewhat kind of new to him, not really, but his interaction between his aunt and Tony Stark in this, and his troubles in school and everything, it really is the best Spider-Man film ever. And I really like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man films. His first 2 films were great movies. Sam Raimi did a great job with that. But something about this movie, whether it's the way the characters were handled, the way it was written, something about it is just so much better than those films. And Michael Keaton in this movie is just, he's putting on a fucking workshop in this movie, man. He is just so good in this. And I love the way that they build his character throughout the film. And there's such a great twist in this movie. It's one of the few Marvel movies to have a truly brilliant twist, and I did not see it coming. And I rewatched it not too long ago, and it still got me. It's still one of those movies that I was like, man, they knocked it out of the park with this film. And it really is one of the best films in the MCU because of it. Number 4 on my list is Iron Man. Now, this is the first Iron Man film. Really, it's the first Marvel film. It's the first Marvel's MCU film. And damn it, man, I just have such a soft spot for this movie. I remember seeing advertisements for it when it was first coming out and thinking, what the hell are they casting that drug addict in that role? You got to remember, guys, at the time, Robert Downey Jr.'s reputation was not great. And he had a pretty bad go of things in the early 2000s, up until around like Tropic Thunder came out. And when that movie came out, that really changed things for that man. And I'm glad he cleaned himself up, because he is now one of the most prestigious actors in Hollywood. And he has every right to be, man. He pulled himself from, the dumpster to like superstardom. And it's all because of Iron Man. His part in this film as Tony Stark is such a game changer. It's one of those few movies that comes around where you're watching it and you're going, okay, this guy was born to play this part. And he was. He is the only guy I can truly imagine playing Tony Stark. And it was a brilliant move of casting. It was a brilliant move of producing. The direction of the film is outstanding. And it's a fun film. Again, it's built a giant universe of films from it. And without that film, I think the landscape of cinema today would be drastically different without it. However, there's a few more that I like. There's a few more that I like more than Iron Man. So we're on to number 3. Number 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Captain America: Winter Soldier was, at the time, probably the darkest and most serious Marvel film to come out. Winter Soldier deals with, Captain America in current day, after the events of Avengers and his situation from waking up from being frozen. And, unlike the first Captain America film, we really get his dealings with the real world and the current world, and how he's dealt with it, and how he's kind of gone along with life, but also how his past is always coming back to haunt him. The character that Robert Redford plays in this is fascinating. I love his character in this movie. I also have a soft spot for Robert Redford. He is one of my favorite actors of all time. And the fact that he signed on to do this movie, and the character that he plays, the part that he plays, is so fascinating. I could watch him in this film all day long, and it's really another one of those like workshop of acting kind of deals where he is just, you can see there's something going on in every scene that he's in, and he's one step ahead of everybody. And it's fascinating to watch. He's such a great actor, and his performance in this movie really elevates it to the point where it's one of my favorite MCU films ever. Number 2 is Avengers Infinity War. Now, this is going to upset some people that this is so high on the list, but I really love this movie. I really love this movie. This movie does what the first 2 Avengers films did, and does it on a level that is stupendous. It's a masterfully directed film. It's awesomely written. The acting from everybody involved is amazing. The only real thing I have about it is that, the movie is so big, is that some of the other characters that got to shine in previous films get kind of left out in this one. And I can understand why they did that. Keep in mind, there is another Avengers film coming out next year, which is going to be the direct follow-up to this. The ending of this film had people going insane. Again, I'm not going to talk about it, but they did something with this movie that was very risky. It pays off, I think, big time, but it's also one of those films where you can watch it and just be in awe of it the whole time. It's a lot of fun, but it's also kind of serious. The tone of the movie is very well balanced. At times, it's a little all over the place. It kind of bounces back and forth a few times near the end. But I love the way the Russo brothers directed this film, and it's no surprise that the Russo brothers have the top 3 spots in this list. They, for some reason, have tapped into the very essence of Marvel Comics. They have handled the material so well, and I think that they know what they're doing here. They are masters at writing. They really know how to do a plot right. They know how to craft a story correctly. They know how to direct the story, and they know how to bring it all together and deliver a very, very, very cohesive film. My number 1 spot on the list is Captain America: Civil War. Civil War was a movie that I was excited for when it was announced, but I didn't know what to expect. This movie does way more than just follow up on Winter Soldier in terms of Captain America's storyline, but it also delivers something special. It brings together many, many characters, and it's not an Avengers movie. And that's different. That's really different. And I think the reason why the Russo brothers got to direct Infinity War is because they showed how damn good they are at bringing these characters together, but not making it overwhelming. Also, the Russo brothers did something special with this film on top of all that. They also made the story a moral question. It's a morality tale, the story. And it's so drastically different than almost every other Marvel film up until this point, even after this point, honestly. You really get to see the characters in a different light in this film, and the fact that they're not always going to agree on things. And I think this movie also did a great job of making their schism, I should say, really believable. That, you know, some bad stuff happens in this movie, and we're introduced to quite a few new characters. I mean, Black Panther is introduced in Civil War. Spider-Man is reintroduced in Civil War, which later led to his own film because of just the sheer, scene-stealing aspect that Spider-Man has in this film. It's so well done. And I think the Russo brothers really gave a crap about how the characters work together, how they do not get along, and how to make these characters who have been kind of attached at the hip for a few years prior to this film, how to make them break up, basically. And they do a great job of breaking the band up in this film, and it raised the stakes for Avengers Infinity War even more so for that. I think it's a very, very, very well-made film. I'd say damn near perfect. This is another film, too, that had a plot twist in it that had people gasping in the theaters when they realized what was going on. It's just unbelievably well written. The action in it is second to none. The airport scene is my favorite action scene in any of the Marvel films, and it really is one of the few times where you get to see these comic book superheroes work together and against each other, ironically enough, in a way that was so wildly entertaining. I was like a little child again watching this film. It really brought me back to the days of reading Marvel Comics in the 90s, and it's just a wonderful film. I love Captain America: Civil War, and that's the reason why it is the number 1 film on my list. Where will Ant-Man and the Wasp fit in on this list? We'll have to tune in next week to find out about that. Until then, I hope you enjoyed my top 19 Marvel films from worst to best. I had a great time writing this. It was tough writing this, But, you know, I wanted the challenge, and I delivered, so I hope you like it. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up on this video. Make a little comment down below on what you thought. And if you want to see more videos like this, or my movie reviews, or my 4K reviews, which are really, really popular as of late, please subscribe to my channel. And until then, I'll see you next time. I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Thank you for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. Take it easy. Good night.